Hey ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Watch Trading Academy channel. This is Cal Knight, as usual, your host with the most. And I want to share with you today an example of how I actually sold a watch for $12,000 profit this year that a dealer couldn't sell. So the watch that we are speaking of is the Ulysse Nardin Freak, and it is one of the coolest watches out there. Ulysse Nardin is a great brand if you do not know this. They're a little less known in the United States and traded in the United States versus in Europe and all over the world. They are traded in the US and desirable here. In Europe, it's more so valued over there. So globally, they're a huge, wonderful brand that holds its value. But in the United States, they don't trade necessarily as fast as Rolex. So the Freak was a great timepiece. It's a watch lover's watch, and it's not necessarily a starter entry-level watch, especially if you're trading. It's a watch that's very specific in the horology space. It is known for achieving its unique design and the specific engineering where they have the center carousel that rotates on its own center pinion and is beautiful to look at. It's truly a work of art on the wrist. And originally when it came out, they started in gold, steel, precious metal, and then started iterating through different variations where the second generation was more like titanium, lighter materials, and now they're coming out with even less pricey versions of the Freak called the Freak X. So the one that I had originally purchased in this specific example was the Freak Out, which is the second generation. And there was a really respectable jeweler in Chicago who had this watch in their inventory and had listed it on eBay. So if you're part of the Watch Trading Academy and you've seen our curriculum, you understand where to find these watch deals. You understand where to look to find these opportunities where maybe someone isn't selling something correctly, or they don't have the audience, or they just want to liquidate their inventory. So using those strategies, I had found this opportunity on eBay, realized it was a big dealer, and they had it priced at somewhere around $39,000. And I gave them a call, used some of the negotiation strategies that I teach in my advanced training course in Watch Trading Academy, and literally got them down to, I'd say, about $26,000 from $39,000 right off the bat. And one of the reasons was I knew that this was a valuable timepiece to them, but my guess was, and I was correct, that they have so much inventory that sometimes they're just okay freeing up some of that inventory and some of those watches that aren't moving really fast in order to cycle that money into watches that move a lot faster. So if you can offer that value to them as a buyer, and they know you're serious and you're not a tire kicker and you actually have the funds to do this, then they're willing to work with you in certain cases, and in this case it worked out perfectly. So I basically talked to them on the phone, got them down another grand, got the watch for $25,000, and the target price is around $24,000 for that watch specifically. We show you how to actually understand target prices in Watch Trading Academy, so I knew it right off the bat. And I knew I was only about $1,000 over the target price. And as you've heard me share with you guys, if you've been subscribing to this channel, there is a bottom cash value to these watches. It's a little bit lower than $24,000 on this specific model, but the target price of $24,000 I was very close to. So I knew my downside risk on this watch was not that intense. And quite frankly, if I could trade out of it or just sell it to one of my other dealers, friends, wholesalers, whatever that is, they would take it off my hands and my loss would be like de minimis, like maybe $1,000, maybe $2,000. So the upside was huge though, because the next similar comp, the next similar listing on the market was probably at about $35,000. So the gap between $25,000 and $35,000, $10,000, right? So the reason that I wanted to buy this watch is not only because I thought that they needed to liquidate it, but it's still a really nice watch. So if you can market it with more focus, if you can remarket this and reposition and resell this watch more aggressively than they are to a different audience, then you can make the money. Because a lot of times when you have that much inventory, you're just taking a stock photo like in a light box, and you don't really care about all the lifestyle kind of emotional marketing that you can do to sell these types of pieces. So I had a little more time on my hands than they did, and could take the lifestyle photos and take these wonderful photos of the blue popping and showing the actual carousel working, and market this to the guys who are friends of mine who own the Lambos, who own the mansions, who own all these cars and toys. And by doing that, I was drawing a lot of attention to it, and people were curious about it, whether they wanted to trade for it or buy it or sell it. And so I was interacting with not only the Watch Trading Academy Facebook community, which we have, where there's a lot of traders in it, but I used the leverage of that community, which was fantastic, to make this sale. So one of the guys in our community, who's a friend, found someone who was looking to potentially buy this watch in a different community, in a different watch enthusiast group. They tagged me in the post and said, Cal Knight. So I saw that, went to that post, shared a picture of the watch the guy was thinking about. He was torn between the Daytona and a Freak, and he said, wow, that thing looks amazing. Would you trade for it? And so I said, absolutely, if we can make it work. So he had some Rolexes to trade. We did the trade. He gave me cash. He's a great guy. We do a lot of business together now, and I formed a new relationship. But that was the first lever of that profit. I think I made, again, off of those trades, I made $5,000 the first time around. So that was fantastic. And then I didn't let go of the opportunity with the deal. So this is very important. Something that I teach the guys in Watch Trading Academy is, just because you sold it to someone doesn't mean you have to never talk to this person again, and you're never going to do business with this person again, or you're never going to see that watch again. Technically, this person is now a new connection of mine. We text, we talk, we communicate, and if they ever want to change out of things, I want to try to help them do that. So sure enough, this gentleman saw a Rolex Sky Dweller I had, wanted to change out of the Freak. I helped him get out of it, and at the same time, found a new buyer who wanted the Freak, who was really looking to do business and buy it outright, which is great, because finally I found that buyer who was willing to pay full price for this watch, who had gone in and tried it on at a jeweler and didn't want to overpay for it. So by building this bridge, by building this connection, and actually doing this deal like a full watch trader, which is kind of like a broker if you think about it. You're making calls, you're trying to control different counterparties and levers. You add a lot of value by being that connection. So when I went to sell it to this other guy and got the Sky Dweller off the hands, we were in the Sky Dweller well enough that when I sold the Ulysse Nut and Freak, the person who was buying it was still in it at a huge value, like a strong deal, and we were still able to make $7,000. So pair that up with the $5,000 from earlier and you get $12,000. And I'm not done with this watch yet. I can keep recycling this as a resource, keep my connections in my network, and keep leveraging the piece to make more money over money over money over money. And once you understand that, once you learn that, you have this like almost infinite access to opportunity, to brokering deals, to watches that you've already owned that you know, and that you know there's a demand for, without having to take on all the risk of just sitting on a watch too long. So if you can get creative around how you market these watches, if you can do what the big jewelers don't have time to do and don't necessarily pay attention to anymore because they just think it's not worth their time, then you can really crush your margins. Like, you can retake this watch, take better pictures, put it in front of more people, get them excited about it, and make a shitload of money. So that's how I essentially made that profit, even when a jeweler couldn't move that watch. Because most people, especially when they're starting, are like, dude, if this person who's been doing this forever can't sell this watch, or this dealer can't sell this watch, then how the hell am I going to sell this watch? Because I may not have the clout or the rapport or the network that those guys have. But you can't think with that attitude. You have to have the mentality that you can get creative. You can have the time to leverage what you're good at and the resources you have. Maybe you have a private network that these people can't touch. They trust you, your family and friends trust you, and then you can go out and make that money, and it's all yours to keep. You have no overhead or de minimis expenses. So it's really cool, guys. And if you want to learn more about how to actually execute on some of these more complex brokering deals and strategies, I highly recommend you still check out Watch Trading Academy if you're not a member already. We have some advanced strategy sessions in there as well, where we really get into the weeds and the details of how this all goes down, and it's very cool. Like I said, I don't think anyone here would not want to wear a watch that was originally, 40 or 50K in retail value, enjoy it, look like a boss, and then buy it for 25 and make $12,000 profit. I mean, even if you're not starting at 25,000 and you only have 1,500, you can do the same thing with different types of watches at that level. So it's fantastic. This is why it's so exciting, and I hope some of that of the example really helped you kind of paint the picture that it's not just black and white. You can get creative, you can make things work, and you can actually sell things without necessarily having to always own inventory. So it's really cool. Definitely check out the watch and Google the Ulysse Nardin Freak. And in the comments below, let me know what you think, and tell me if you've ever done anything that was a really cool deal that maybe wasn't just the standard tried and true buy sell. Thanks, guys.